Thank you to the Three Principles Global community for offering these conversations. These webinars are intended to support community conversations on the quotes of Sydney Banks. If you're not familiar with the Three Principles Global community, it is a nonprofit organization committed to disseminating the understanding of the three principles as discovered by Sydney Banks. The three principles point toward the true source of human experience. Insightful realization of the three principles allows anyone to understand how all human experience is created and to glimpse into the very nature of that creative source. These insights uncover our natural resilience, innate feelings of well-being, and our natural connection and access to a universal wisdom found within everyone. The website is 3pgc.org. So the quote that came to me today for our conversation is from the Enlightened Gardener Revisited, and it's page number 40. And so I'll read the quote a few times, let it kind of wash over you and see what comes to mind, and just chime in when you feel like you've had a chance to reflect on it. Okay. All right. When your mind is still enough and goes into the state of no personal thought, the incubation takes place and the wisdom you seek will be brought to life. When your mind is still enough and goes into the state of no personal thought, the incubation takes place and the wisdom you seek will be brought to life.
I find that to be more and more true. This last few weeks, I've been playing this game. I set my watch to go off every hour, and it's not on the hour, on the half, whenever I wake up and I set it. When it goes off, I ask myself a what question. And the what question that really causes my thinking to stop, at least for a few seconds, is what is breathing my body? And my ego can't answer that question because it knows it's not doing it, because if it was, I'd be dead when I go to sleep. And it just creates this gap in thinking. And then I just get to hang out there, and I get to experience exactly what Sid was saying is, yeah, when the personal thinking stops for whatever reason, then there's all sorts of possibility, not just the habit of thinking, which creates my next reality. So that's a great quote for me today.
When I read it, it was, as I reflected on it before we met, when the line about the state of no personal thought, what came into my mind was like, oh, that's where I can experience me. You know, I was like, I just thought that was so like an opportunity to just experience me, not my thinking, not my judgments, not my anything, but to your point, you know, just experience me, that which exists.
Yeah, I call it whatness, and I like the what question because it takes any personality belief system out of it. I'm not used to asking that question, so it really causes a pause, which immediately puts me into whatness, which is who we are. It's the witnessing, the presence of our drama, our thinking, our emotional state. And the presence never judges. It's never upset. It's never suffering. It's just there. And it's just there to be with whatever my thinking is experiencing. My thinking creates experiencing, but the whatness is always there. And to remind myself of that is just very useful. So I like whatness. So I mean, for some people, who is breathing is more powerful, but for me, what is almost makes me laugh. It's like the punchline to a cosmic joke. So you think you've been doing this all along? Yeah, we'll just answer this question. Anyways.
Well, that's great. The punchline to a cosmic joke. Well, we get a bunch of those too, don't we? You think you're all that and a bag of chips, you know? Thank you.
For me, it's like when I heard you saying this, the saying, when we get out of our personal thinking and we come to that quiet place, and I think you used the word incubate, it's almost like then that's for me the way I understand it, that it births something new each time for me personally, and then that new is the wisdom that comes from within. So whether it is when I have preconceived opinions about normally people who are close to me and how things will go, but I managed to snap out of it and just come to that place, then many times I actually can have a new experience with even those that are close to me, for example. So that's what I got from it. Now that the holiday season is approaching, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Yes, it was. That was his word. The incubation takes place, and the wisdom you seek will be brought to life.
For me, when I heard it, I couldn't help but think about how rare contemplation is these days. Just sitting and doing nothing, or driving without the radio or without music or so. Because moments like this, I remember having, I don't know if I would call them insights, perhaps, but just like very powerful reflections of, for example, the first math exam I ever did, that I thought about that, and then the idea I had about maths completely changed. Thought about, oh, perhaps I'm just bad at math, and I saw that at that moment I was just not understanding it, which is very different. And yeah, it made me remember and think about this, and also how this just came to mind now. How, since most of us live surrounded with these tall buildings and we don't see the sun much, you can walk around the city and you don't get sunlight. I mean, it can happen. It just makes me think that the environments that we live in makes us more stuck in the thinking and in the routines that we have. Because for me, if I go to the terrace and just look at the moon, I have a telescope, and sometimes I see, these days you can see Jupiter. It's very tiny, but it's almost magical, because it's like what they told me in nature class. It's there, it's here. Or yeah, just hanging out in an open place in the outskirts of where I live. There are very few buildings, and so that just made me think about that. How in those moments where I just sit and look at the clouds or so, how so many these kind of changes of meaning can come, or new thought, basically new thought.
Thank you. I love that, because the clarity of what you said, when we live under this veil of lacking, kind of lacking understanding, and it kind of showed up in the sense of, I'm not good at math, to really, when you were able to see that I just don't understand it. That's a very different level of understanding. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the one that stuck with me the most. Some others were like, I really like selling. And that also stayed with me. It was like, I actually do. Yeah. It's fun. You never know what's going to show up.
Yeah, true.
I'm going to apologize for this image metaphor.
No apologies accepted, because no apologies needed.
I don't know. You haven't heard it yet.
Oh, I'm good with it, whatever it is.
No, I'm just kidding. There's as you're speaking, I had and reflecting on the quote, it reminds me of a bit of a pendulum, and when I think of pendulum, unfortunately, I think of Miley Cyrus and her wrecking ball. And if you ever seen the video, don't watch the video. But anyways, like, you know, like this wrecking ball swinging away, right? Which for me is like is my personal thinking. And what's interesting about a pendulum is that it swings, right? It's moving in momentum, and it's moving in a particular direction, but eventually it starts to slow down and literally stop. And I kind of noticed that with you know, when I notice that I'm in my personal thinking, I'm already the wrecking ball is starting to slow down. And at that point of where it goes silent, then it changes direction. It feels different all of a sudden, and it like a realization for me. And I shared last week about my dad. Well, I got the same sort of hit with my wife the other day, and that was a psychological hit, not a physical one. Okay, but it's, you know, we were interacting, we were having a conversation, and I could feel the wrecking ball moving quite quickly in a particular direction, but it, you know, just in me, you know, and then as I noticed it, it started to slow down again. And then I realized it's like, oh my God, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing with my dad, like holding on to a memory and then acting according to that memory, as opposed to acting in the moment and responding in the moment. And so for me, the metaphor is this slowing down of the quieting of the mind that starts with noticing that I'm actually on a whatever, like just that noticing piece. And then it has a tendency to slow down, and then it changes direction with a new realization. So like that pause, right? And then it's like swings back. So anyways, it's a cool experience, but it's something that I'm not conscious of or consciously trying to do, but just sort of naturally seems to occur. And then when I'm noticing it, then I can watch it. I can sort of feel the transitions. And then I'm back in my wrecking ball, personal thinking, off to another trip, kind of.
That's a great metaphor too, because if it's really not great historical thinking coming to mind, it really is a wrecking ball. It's a wrecking ball to a perfectly clear moment. So I think it's more than metaphor of what you're describing. And a pendulum is like really can be a wrecking ball that kills a perfectly good opportunity to engage with somebody.
Absolutely.
I love that.
That just brings me to, so the past 2 weeks I've been very sick, and my baby, he was sick too. It was just awful. And your mind just, I was so low. I didn't at that time too, and knowing the three principles for almost a year now, and Sydney Banks, I didn't think I was going to get a way out of that. But now it's been 3 days and I'm so much better, and I'm like, I can't believe I ever got my mind to that place again, you know, where I wasn't going to get out of this. And it's so amazing to see. I did have a lot of insights. That thought is just so strong, and it brings on so many emotions. And you want to help people and tell them that, you know, it's just thought. But when you're in that train of mindset, I feel there's no helping. Like my husband came to me and he was like, honey, remember, it's just a thought. I'm like, you just shut up. Don't leave me alone. Like, it's not working. And it's crazy how, like, when he said wrecking ball just now, I was like, oh my God, I had 2 weeks of a wrecking ball.
It's so convincing. I mean, all the intellectual understanding is sitting there watching your humanity take over, and it's like, this is going to last forever. I'm never going to feel any better than I feel at this moment. It feels so, um, so much like a tattoo. I'm stuck with this feeling forever. It's never going to go away. You know, it's so convincing, even with all the intellectual understanding you might have, and even if you're like, well, I know this will last, but it still lasts too long. If it's a minute, or if it's 2 weeks, or it's 3 days, it's still too long.
Oh yeah, it feels definitely long when you go through it, but then I get my insights during these times. I don't know why, but it is, it's there. And it's like, I get that little feeling that Sid talks about, that I'm not stuck. And I know I feel this way now, and nobody can tell me to feel any other way at this second, but I know I'll return to my normal self soon. It's just kind of cool to like experience that and see the beauty of that, even when you feel like you're a wrecking ball in the moment.
Yeah. Yes. But you can feel like you're in the midst of a wrecking ball and you've got a life jacket on, but you still, you've got a life preserver, whatever you call it. It's still kind of on you. You've got leverage in some situation, but you still don't like. It's still a miserable place to be.
Yes, I just tell myself I'm just being very human right now. It helps a little.
It does. It does. It does. But could you hurry it up?
Yeah, can we please get going back to where we just were a couple days ago?
Yeah. And whatever my thought process goes in is like, whenever I go to those places, I'm like, now remember, there's an equal and opposite great feeling going to be on the other side of this. It's guaranteed it's going to be an even better feeling on the other side. And I'm like, okay. And it really does happen, except, okay.
It's kind of like a waiting period sometimes.
It is. It is.
I always like
That
to
way.
think of it too as an experience. It's
Yeah.
such an experience to go through it, because when it happens again, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, nothing's bringing me down now the next time.
Until it does.
Yes, until it does.
Till something very surprising shows up, and it's like, oh gosh, I never saw that coming.
I have a thought about this.
Wonderful.
Since discovering the principles in April, oh my gosh, I don't need to explain to you guys how wonderful it is. But and I know now, just the quieting of the mind does give me so much more clarity. And it's this push and pull, because I know I need to slow down and be quiet. And yet, I'm building this monthly membership for coaching, and that just feels like, God, you got to get it done, and I've had this Facebook group for a couple of years. I have like almost 1,000 women in it. I don't coach any of them. I just nurture. So I'm learning, to do all this, and I feel the urgency, and I also feel the resistance. So are you quieting down to find your peace of mind and clarity? Or are you quieting down because you just don't feel like doing this? And it's just most of the time lately, it's resistance, that because it just feels, I've never done it, created a program and a monthly membership and learning how to, put together an effective lead magnet and all that. And it's just like, gosh. So yeah, that's where I am. And it keeps me up at night sometimes, the resistance, feeling that. And yeah, before I found the principles, I would wake up anxious about what I was going to do today in my business. And I realize now that's a habit. Sometimes when I wake up that way, it's like, that's just a habit of how you used to feel. But yeah, it's just learning. And Yeah. It's just a push and pull.
And I think we have so many thoughts around scaling a business, and we have so many golly ideas and other people's ways of doing it. And then, I mean, if you, especially just coming up in the world running businesses, you took so much information from the outside, you took it in.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
think there's a system, there's the magic pill or a magic formula or a something. And to me, like I'll say it was like converting from old business model to, I kind of think of it as like an inspiration business model. It was like, this can't work. You know what I mean? You need to, there are how-tos out there, and this is not, really to rely on inspiration coming from a clear mind, coming from a quiet mind. It's like, it really felt like I was trying to navigate business in reverse, because it really was trying to unlearn, but just driving in reverse because it was innocently downloaded with so many ideas
Yeah.
from business models that I'd explored in the past, so many. And it's the buzzkill. It's the buzzkill of business, if you ask me. Really having
It
to
is.
look for the way that works.
Yeah. And there's so many, if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers. And, don't be a friend with the people in your group and show up as an expert. It's like, I just want to be me. If it doesn't work out, okay, but it might. It's
Totally,
just, yeah.
totally. Yes, 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 yes. I feel like we're in a time. It's like, yeah, be how much more you can you be in what you do.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Me too. Me too.
And I know there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of coaches within this community trying to spread the love and the word. And yeah, it's a challenge. I'm enjoying it, but yeah, it's time to make it work.
Well, and what I like that analogy. Like, everybody thinks the baby's born in 40 weeks, but it gets here when it gets here.
Yes. Yeah. There's no overnight success. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
No, well, no. I don't even mean overnight success. It's like it's like planting tomatoes, you don't know. They say 45 days, but on the 45th day, it may not be right. But just to be there when it drops from the vine, or it's like, well, who I know science says it should happen in 45 days, but doctors say babies will be here in 40 weeks. It's like they can't set their clock by it.
Right.
But they do tell the mom all the time, the more you relax, the easier it'll be. The more you relax, the easier it'll be. So not that I know anything about that. That's not out of my wheelhouse, but that's what seems to be. Everything is based on relaxation, not driving
Pushing.
the process. Yeah, driving the process. Yeah.
Relaxation and breathing into it.
No kidding. No kidding. But I've been around fortunately been around so many teachers in this community where they did show me that inspiration was what was driving their business. And because I told them there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. And then I'd be with them for weeks on end. I'd go, I guess there is, I guess a fresh idea would come and they'd act on it and it'd be like, okay. I think that part about the incubation takes place and the wisdom you seek will be brought to life. It's like, I think the way it in the business model is like, okay, for me, the more I stay out of it and be willing to respond to what occurs to me, just stay out of it and and just pay attention to what occurs to me and not poo-poo it, not to
Stay out of the what?
out of all the ways it should be done, all the shoulds.
Yeah, out of the hustle and the all that.
Well,
Yeah.
the shoulds and the supposed tos, and this is the formula,
Yes.
and all of that sort of how it's been written. I say follow anything that feels like a great fun thing to do, and stay away from anything that feels like hard labor. It's like that can't be a good idea if the feeling of it is so rotten. It just can't be a good idea for your business. I don't know anybody. I don't know. I was like, I would never give anybody my coins if they were grinding it out. I'm like, no, I don't want to sign up for that feeling.
Right.
No. I can go get my driver's license renewed or something. I understand.
Right. Yeah. And who am I to teach people about how to, like feel more confident and overcome their inner critic if I'm just pushing and not listening to my own self-awareness.
Well, who are you not to?
No, it's okay.
Oh, good.
But I
Good.
mean, yeah,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Yeah, that it's all being self-aware. Yeah. Yeah. I'm good with the process. I just feel that push and pull that I need to be pushing much harder. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
I think your wisdom's talking to you. You know what I mean? To me, it's the un strategy, trying to unstrategize,
Yeah.
unlearn.
Yeah. I appreciate your thoughts.
No, thank you for bringing that up because it's such a real, where the rubber meets the road, where the principles meet the road sort of thing, where you really do get the opportunities to see the principles in practice. You really get to notice the principles in everyday life. And just, I think being curious about seeing the principles in my everyday life is one of the greatest teachers, just to,
Agreed.
just to see them, and I don't know. I just think that we trust a bad feeling, and it's not a good idea. No pain, no gain, and all that other crazy stuff we picked up along the way, but it's just like we tend to think it's hard is better, or suck it up, or you're not disciplined enough, or whatever, you know what I mean? But it's bringing a bad feeling, but we trust a bad feeling more than we trust spaciousness and potential and all those kinds of things. So no, I love what you're sharing about, just really where you can see it in your every single day life.
That was awesome because I remember my first boss who was not, I shared an apartment with him in Barcelona. We were friends. We still are. I remember I was his video editor, and I remember filming a video with him called The Grind, or no, the Hustle Mode. That when you're starting a business, the only thing you have to think about, the only thing you read about, the only thing you talk about, the only thing you do is your business. You have to be 200%, and that's how he lived, and it worked for him. Yeah, but running a business by inspiration sounds much better. much better. Oh yeah.
There's not a right or a wrong.
Yeah.
For like your boss, it's like, boy, if that puts him in a good, if he finds himself in a great feeling on the push and the grind and all that, if he finds himself in a good feeling, that's his way.
He might have. Yeah, he might have. Yeah, because he just wouldn't stop. He was working so much, and part of him, I think he really liked it. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, and we get it with what it looks like to me. There's not a right way or a wrong way. Gives an opportunity for each of us to kind of settle into what's a fit for me, and let that kind of be your north needle versus somebody else's.
I enjoy what I'm doing, even the process of not having clients, but just nurturing these women and encouraging them. And I have a side hustle. I mean, my husband, he's a huge supporter financially and everything else. And then I have a massage therapy business. So I guess I'm very fortunate that I don't have the drive coming from a financial point of view. Um, and then like I've shared with many people what I do. And then when I see them, like, how's your coaching business? And I think that's what I'm allowing sometimes to, well, it's going. Oh, how many clients do you have? It's like, none right now, so it's just me, taking that shit on. Yes, when I'm really enjoying what I do, and I've been at it for a couple years. So yes, now I'm really focusing. I've taken time off massage to really deal into, but yes, it made me realize even more that it's just the pressure and what I think the other people are thinking.
Mm.
Even though they're not thinking anything, they're just asking a question.
What a wonderful little conversation going on, because this morning I was watching this sort of morning magazine show, and they were mentioned that authenticity or authentic was the #1 Googled search word of the year.
Really?
And they were quite surprised by it, because they were questioning, like why do people have to search what it means to be authentic? And like it's interesting, right? It's like, but here we have all these different examples about how we tend not to be authentic when we start buying into narratives around it takes 40 days, it takes this, it takes that, it takes hard work, it takes the grind, it takes all whatever you want to come up with. And I think you said it is like, all it takes really is for you to be you. Like what works for you. His boss, like, that might have been the perfect solution for him. And then he probably wrote a book on 50 ways to be the best, right?
Totally.
And of course everybody's looking to be authentic, so they buy his book, and but it's just so interesting how maybe that people are a lot are lost more than, I don't know, like it was just fascinating to hear that was the top of the list of search words. And yet it's as simple as being yourself, but who is that too?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And on that self-discovery of letting go, like the realization of, oh, I'm holding on to this notion or this thought that really is just me mucking around on a wrecking ball or whatever, and I need to get off, like realizing I need to get off that, right? And then see what happens. And if it feels good, see, there's another story around feeling good too, because there are a few things that I don't necessarily feel that they're really great, like when I'm being creative, like sometimes it feels differently, but I'm realizing that just because I have a thought around that or a feeling around that doesn't mean that I'm not necessarily on the right on the wrong path. And I think that's been tricky for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So being mindful around, just because I'm having a feeling doesn't necessarily mean I need to change direction here or do some, right. But if I do slow down and get more clarity, something tends to push me or nudge me or tap me on the shoulder. and it doesn't necessarily have to be from there. It could be something mirrored back to me, like realizing what I was doing with, having during that conversation with my wife, kind of thing. So being open that way.
Absolutely. And I think a kind of the cliff notes of that in the humanness of it all, it's like if you notice where your thinking gets real stirred up, you'll see people, it'll happen around relationships. They lose all clarity if you say relationship, or they lose all clarity if you say money or business or whatever your hot topic might be. It's good just to kind of be a witness to where it looks complicated, or where your thinking gets elevated, if it maybe in creating something. It's like, look how much you get inspired to create something. I don't care what it is, a meal or a painting or a business or anything else. And it's like you get inspired to do that. And then to me, if that stirs up a lot of thinking inside, it just kind of helps show you how much you consider, how much gets stirred up that looks real. And in order, I don't know, I kind of like the idea. That's why I love painting so much, because it's like everything that looks like it's a hard and fast truth, it's like, do more of that. You know what I mean? So just do more of that. Whatever seems like so wrong, do more of that. So it's all kind of permission based to clear the path of all this stuff that looks like it's hard and true. And it's like I said, that's why I love putting all of that stuff under in the basket of creativity, because it you kind of have this container for just seeing how much objection your mind serves up about you being you and just doing what occurs to you in the moment. It's just amazing. I think we live under so many layers of other people's ideas, and golly, I'd love her to be able to flip the switch and be out from under all of it, but it sure seems to show up whenever it feels like the stakes get high for taking a risk of doing something. So funny. It's like we think we have something to lose. That's what's so funny.
I think sometimes when we start something new, it is hard, and it's all right to have a feeling that this is hard. I mean, I would rather go turn the compost in my backyard than work on a website. I just like it. It's not a natural thing. However, I have worked on my website and had fun, and it really depends on my thinking. When I started the job that I'm at, which is victim services, it's a great deal. I spend more time creating and managing files than actually making contact with clients. It's making contact with clients where the juice is for me. It's where the love is. However, without accurate files, I can't even find their phone number. And so in the beginning, the file work was really hard and it was a challenge because I'm not that great with computers. My spelling sucks. Fortunately, my boss knows that and doesn't care. But now file work is at least neutral, but kind of enjoyable, because I realize without it, I can't connect with my clients. So I started with this mindset of, God, this is hard. I'm never going to learn it. And eventually got to a place of, do the file. And now I can follow up. What did I speak to that person last time? It's all there. And I enjoy the file work. But that's not how it started. It was really hard because it was something new to learn. So sometimes you got to hang in with the hard feelings, because that's life, I think. And right now, I'd rather go turn the compost because I don't have a website that I need to work on, but that might change. And maybe if I shovel enough compost and make some money, I pay someone to do my website. I don't know, because it's just not my thing, right?
Yeah.
It may just make more sense for me to pay for someone to do that piece of the work, because it just takes the life out of me. Or I might find a real joy in it at some point. But I like to be open with the thinking of it might be hard right now. I work with someone called Mark Silver, who does a course on the heart of business. And if it's not speaking to my heart, then it's probably not the right thing. It could still be hard, So my work with clients and victim services, I love. Parts of it are very hard. But in my heart, that's what I'm supposed to be doing right now. That's who I'm supposed to be working with. And the hard parts are hard. Anyways, whatever that's worth.
The interesting part of like understanding or just getting a glimpse of the role of thought is like, I know I can get behind something and do it. You know, I know I can get behind it and do it. Even if I do it every single time it gets close to April 15th. Don't want to, but I know I can get behind it because so there's that part about the trickster of the mind going, okay, this is really, really required of me. I can kick and whine and pout and all that good stuff, but I know I can get behind it, which has leverage to it if I have to. And not even, you know, I mean, even if I don't have to, but even if I don't have to, but it's right there and I could get behind it. There's just leverage of knowing I can get behind it.
I was teaching my granddaughter to drive, and she said, I said, we're gonna do a lane change. She said, I hate lane changes. I absolutely hate lane changes. She said, tell me when it's safe to do it. I said, no, you got to figure it out. And you know, I had the chance to say most people think it's the circumstances that create their emotions. It's their thinking. So that, and I also knew what I need to do to help her learn to do a lane change, to break it down into manageable pieces, because she doesn't even know what she's looking for when she looks in the mirror. She's just going through the motion. So of course she's going to hate lane changes. But I realized how hard she was making it for herself just because of the thinking about it. Oh, I hate lane changes. I can't do it. Someone's going to tell me when to do it. I went, this is going to be a really great learning opportunity when we have another chance to do a lesson to help her see her thinking, but then also break it down into why she can't do a lane change. It's because you don't actually know what you're looking for. That's fixable. It's all about the thinking.
And isn't that interesting about a lane change? I mean, I'm 60 and I'm thinking I could do a freaking lane change in my sleep, but that's where she's at. You know, and yeah, we're all at these other places where it just might seem like, oh my God, you need to show me how. And I can't even see it. Yeah, interesting.
Totally. How the thinking gets stirred up and then it builds the reality we fall into and then live inside of. I can't do lane changing.
And that being a rather essential part of driving, if she doesn't manage that thought, she may never get her license. Because you can't do a lane change, you can't get your license. So I'm actually looking forward to the time we can have another lesson so we can actually fix it, but also have her understanding how her thinking has made it that much more difficult. It's blocked her understanding what she really needs to do to make it safely. And I said, you know, eventually we at least get you to neutral about lane changes. You don't have to love them. You just have to know how to do them. And she calmed down a bit, thinking, well, I could maybe get to neutral.
Or she'll get behind a couple slow drivers several times, and then she'll really like to learn the lane changes.
She'll be able to get behind the idea of lane changes, won't she? She's late in meeting her friends. She'll get behind it. That's great.
I loved what you said, Sherry, and everyone said, but just wanted to come back to what you said at the beginning about your feeling of that quote of Sydney Banks, where you said that it gives you, what came to mind was it gives you an experience of the real you. And to me, I totally see that too. And it's a space of possibility that opens up because I'm not attached to my ideas of what I can and can't do. Can I change lanes or not? Or you know, I can't do this. It just opens it completely up. And that sort of expansiveness comes. And I had an experience, which I hadn't linked to this quote, so it's really nice that it was this topic. And I'm sorry I've missed your other 3 sessions because I'd hoped to come, but I had clashes. A couple of weekends ago, I went out into the wild nature and sat for 8 hours in a sit spot or in a circle and didn't move. And because there was that length of time and there was nothing that needed to happen, my mind went really quiet. And I wasn't thinking about, creating more clients or what I was going to do next or any of that. I just was in nature and soaking in nature. And what happened in that quiet mind is that I sunk underneath my layers of self-judgment and criticism of I should be further along than I am and all that kind of stuff, and fell into what I think for the first time, and I've been around the principles for a while now, was what I refer to as my true nature, that state of love. I had a completely different experience of myself. So I totally, when you said that, I was like, yes, that's exactly what happened 2 weeks ago, because there was nothing for my mind to attach to other than to take in the beauty around me. And I did feel that inspiration that was also mentioned today, and some ideas just naturally came, because I don't know, I just felt that oneness and it was incredible. So I've realized just how little time I allow in my daily life for that state of no thought, because I'm always reading things and I get inspired and I have the good feeling and ideas come, but I'm not slowing down enough to just remember who I really am and my potential. So I get inspired, but I'm still in my limiting thoughts too much. So that was really cool to see. And I feel already so much growth has happened since then. So yeah, it's lovely to have that quote to sort of tie it back and anchor the experience. So thank you for that.
Wow, that's a fabulous example of it's all just kind of waiting for us underneath all the other input, I guess, or input or static or whatever. It's all in there waiting on us.
And there's so much less to do than we think. That's what really came to
And
me. It's crazy, isn't it? And yet well, I know I am in so much of that. Oh, I need to go, and rather than just being. And that was so absolutely potently clear to me on that day how powerful that was. Yeah, it was amazing. So I highly encourage everyone to go and spend 8 hours.
That's a beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I think that touches so much on the even overwhelm and all the suggestion that everything's going to take more time. And it's amazing how much time you think about something and how much time it takes to really do it. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you very much for listening. There are abundant resources to learn more through the 3PGC website. You can also learn more by visiting my YouTube channel or my podcast, Connected Living, Truths and Understandings for the Business of Life.